When I first looked at that backsplash, I said, that's trash. I need to rip all that out and put some drywall in there. Now the cabinetry, at first glance you want to trash them too, but I can work with the cabinets and the countertop. But that backsplash is trash. It needs to be ripped out and put back. However, when you slow down and you look at it, you're like, that can be fixed. I'm like, what does this need? And I realized the reason it's faded is the grout is missing. So if I scrub that backsplash, cleaned it up real nice, put some nice black grout in there, might make it pop, as they say. I'll be using the Polyblend non-sanded grout. Non-sanded is made for small gaps, which I have. Purchased at Home Depot. Got a sponge, and then a grout float from Amazon, Mutt. I'll put a link to all the products I use in this video in the description. Here at the sink, I'll use this container to mix the grout. Fresh bucket of water for the sponge. So I'm going to mix a small amount to start with, and there's all kinds of measuring applications on the bag. I'm not going to follow any of that. I'm just going to make it into a paste. So I'm going to stir it up first. They say it mixes all the dyes in. I would think that would be done at the factory. So I'm happy with this. Whoa! It's like mixing a batch of mortar. Now I'm using a large container just so I can get my trowel in there easy. Get it out. That's a nice paste. That's pretty good. They say they don't want it to fall off your trowel. And that's it right there. Also, once you get it mixed, they say don't add water. It will change the dye. And they say to let it rest for 10 minutes before you use it. All right. 10 minutes on the clock. Remix it. It loosens it up. Wow, I still see a little bit of dry stuff in there. Oh well. When it gets more creamy. All right, looks good. I'll be doing this section first. I taped off that outlet to protect that. These two I'll be replacing. I'd like to add, I'm not doing this professionally. You're supposed to remove all the grout from all these gaps. You think I got the patience to do that? I'm just trying to re-blacken the area that's faded, and then if I need to match it on down, I'll deal with that. Should have put gloves on. Look at that. Oh, this looks nasty. Oh my goodness. I think it's too dry. Wow, that looks great. Now if I can just maintain that, that really looks good. That's amazing. Also, I forgot to mention, I taped off the bottom, protect the counter. Very helpful. You gotta get it all, or you'll be doing it again. All that cleaning and wiping, and then you gotta muck it all back up. So I'm not worried about the wall. There'll be a piece of trim here. I'll show that later. Maybe I could get it on the wall with the trowel first. Just get it on there. I want to get it all at once. This is pretty nice. It's kind of like doing drywall mud. Now you're supposed to do all this and this, but look at these tiles that are going in so many different directions. I'm just getting it in the grooves.
Now, of course, you put silicone in the corner. Show that later. That's a lot of black to be cleaning off with the sponge. We'll see how it goes. Wring this out as much as you can get out of it. Damp is what you want. Light passes. Whoa, there's a lot of black on there. I'm in trouble. Yep, you can see I'm in trouble. Wow, huh. Man, it looked good, now it looks terrible. This is interesting. Since I'm getting it real wet, I'm gonna try, wow, that's starting to work, dude. I'm gonna try a wet paper towel. All I'm trying to achieve is to get the haze off, which this is more than a haze. This is black gook. So when you run into situations like this, you do what you have to. I'm using Windex and paper towels at this point. Reason being, I cannot get my sponge clean enough. The dye is in the sponge. So this, with a few more passes, is going to work. Now this area here, there's something on them tiles. And the black dye got into that and pronounced it. Same here. That really looks bad. So overall, it doesn't look too bad. Took care of the fading. Now there's some issues here. I'll address after this sets up. And I'm thinking this mix, I'll mix thinner, but then the mix is going to be thinner. It's going to be more liquefied in these joints. However, I've got to try something different. So we're going to go that route. Mix a little less this time. Definitely more creamy this time. All right, let that sit 10 minutes. 10 minutes. Oh yeah, thickened up just a little bit, but it's still pretty creamy. I taped this up so I don't get zapped. So it starts getting good about here, so I'll just stop right here. So what if I cleaned this squeegee? How much more I would get off? Clean squeegee. Okay, that doesn't help any. Another aspect I could try is to let this sit for about a half an hour. I got about 20 minutes sitting time. You're supposed to feel the grout in the groove. And if it starts to set up, then you get your damp sponge and try it. I tell you what, that's a cool look right there. So it looks like I've got the same scenario as the last time, so I'm just going to skip to the end. Here's the finished product. And I'd like to go over a few things that I experienced with the process. This is the first section I did, which turned out the best. However, some of these tiles are protruded, and this one's even angled. And I didn't know that would affect grout work, such as when you run your squeegee across and the sponge. It's uneven, and it will draw the grout out as you come across it, and it gives you a lot more difficulty. Another thing, when you apply the grout, you're on this angle. But when you squeegee, get on a really strong angle and it helps remove the majority. Another thing, this is a car wash sponge. Did a little research. This is not what you use. So that's another reason I was having difficulty. I would say the best type of sponge, it has slits all through here, and that allows to grab grout as you run across. And even with these ones protruded, really affects getting the grout off, because every time you go across the high spot, it draws that grout. As you've seen, the first batch was thick. Then I thinned it out a little bit. And in this section, I thinned it out even more, because most of the grout was there, and I'm just trying to match the color, make it uniform. Turned out pretty good. However, I'd like to point out, some of the gaps are larger than others. I'm not sure how that happened, because this tile comes on sheets, and you put your thin set on and then stick it. Maybe this is in between sheets. This is more pronounced through here. It's a larger line, and it's noticeable when you're standing back. However, if it drives you insane, you could decorate the backsplash, then any imperfection would vanish. I also trimmed out the entire area, same color as the cabinet. I think a piece of trim on the bottom would frame it out even that much more. However, with constant wiping of the countertops, would fade that paint, eventually rot that wood. During the installation of the countertop, it was sealed to the tile, so I'm going to leave that be. Which brings us to this corner. I had mentioned I was going to caulk that joint. However, some black grout got in there. There's a nice straight line, and here's the caulk I was going to use. My brother gave this to me. It's the same brand as the grout. This is the sanded type. They also make it non-sanded. And I failed to mention, the color of the grout and this is charcoal. Another thing I'd like to mention, I could not find an exact match at the big box store of these tiles. And originally they had these tiles one layer past the countertop, so I removed them and cut little pieces to fit where I need it on the top, but I didn't quite have enough. And that's when the idea of the trim came into play. And now that it's in place, I kind of like the way that looks. So you've seen I had a difficult time in the beginning. The application was a total failure. However, it's the end result that matters. So if you're going to attempt to do this for the first time, avoid all the mistakes I made. Get the right products, look for high tiles, and go for it. I'd like to thank everyone for watching, and if you'd like to see how to install a dishwasher, cabinet, countertop, or how to install sheet vinyl flooring, kitchen, dining room, I'll provide a link